Hello, and welcome to the sanctuary here at the Episcopal Church of the Advent. Thank you for taking a few moments of your time to be with me today. I grew up in a very small town. I grew up in a small town in central Virginia, a town of about 1,200 people. And Sundays were fairly sleepy days in the town where I grew up because we had what were called blue laws. Blue laws were laws that governed what could be open on a Sunday. And so in my hometown, only businesses that dealt with food or healthcare could be open on Sundays. There were no sports practices, there were no tournaments. In fact, the laws even prohibited the sale of alcohol and the public consumption of alcohol. Now, as a young person, when I asked why Sundays were kind of sleepy, I was often told that the reason for it was because of the fourth commandment. In the 10 Commandments, the fourth commandment says that we are to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, that we're to work 6 days out of the week, but the seventh day is to be holy unto the Lord our God. And of course, those laws have changed, and life in my hometown is not so sleepy on Sundays anymore. And in fact, to be honest, I don't really think much about the fourth commandment, and I bet a lot of people don't give it much thought either. And growing up, I always thought the fourth commandment existed just solely to keep us from having fun on Sundays. But the older I get, the more I realize the wisdom to be found in the fourth commandment. You see, the 10 Commandments were given to the Hebrew people at a significant moment in their history. The Bible tells us that for generations, the Hebrew people had been slaves to the Pharaoh in Egypt. And then eventually, God calls forth Moses, and in the book of Exodus, Moses leads the Hebrew people out of slavery in Egypt to the land that God has promised them. But before they're allowed to enter into the promised land, God delivers to them the 10 Commandments. And the 10 Commandments are essentially these 10 rules or 10 guidelines as to how they're going to function in this new land that God has given them. And the fourth of those 10 Commandments is this commandment about resting on the seventh day, the Sabbath day. And in the history of the people of Israel, this commandment serves two purposes. First, it reminds them of their freedom. Right? When they were slaves in Egypt, they didn't have the right to take the day off. Slaves don't get to set their own work schedule, so they couldn't take the seventh day off. So this fourth commandment was a reminder to them of their freedom, the freedom that God had given them. But also, the fourth commandment reminded them about the purpose of life. You see, in the 10 Commandments, the first 4 commandments deal with our relationship with God, and the remaining 6 commandments deal with our relationships with each other. So even in the 10 Commandments themselves, we see that there is a focus on our relationship with God and our relationship with one another. And Jesus even says as much. Jesus, when he gives the great commandment in the New Testament, he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus makes it clear that the purpose of our lives is to be in relationship with God and to be in relationship with one another. And that's really the importance or the purpose of this commandment for rest. Because work is important, our vocations that we're called to are important. Work is one of the ways that we find meaning in our lives, and work, of course, is necessary to support ourselves and our families. But the fourth commandment reminds us that the purpose of life is not to work. The purpose of life is to be in relationship with God and to be in relationship with other people. And so we're commanded to set aside time to focus on the purpose of life, our relationship with God and our relationship with others. So whatever your circumstances are in life, whatever your work schedule may be, I encourage you to think about this fourth commandment. Find time in your life to focus on your relationship with God and to focus on your relationship with others, because therein lies the purpose of our existence. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you found this message helpful, please feel free to share this message on social media so that others who might find this message helpful as well may see it. Take care.